Easy? Gonna be like this all year? What's that?
How bad is the season going to be?
Wow. You haven't been here in a while, have you? Well, you know, everybody's got their opinion. And really, as I've said, as I've gone across the state, nobody really knows what we're getting into. Everybody thinks they do, and we'll have a better assessment. I just got off the radio talking about teams that we're going to play. Certainly the schedule that we play is a complete one, particularly in the back end with all the road trips. So, you know, as I said since I came here, that, you know, we owe it to our fans, we owe it to our seniors, our current players, to try to win now. And you know, it's coach speak if you want to do it, if you want to use that. But when you say, you know, we got to take 1 week at a time, but that's the approach that I've always taken as a head coach, and that's not going to change. So, you know, we've been guaranteed 12 opportunities to play, and the first opportunity is a week from today, and there's steps during the season, and certainly that's the first step. And I think, you know, for our fans and former students, everybody involved, everybody's excited about week 2, and they should be. You know, the first SEC game being a home game, but our focus as a team has been on our first game, which is Louisiana Tech, and that's basically our biggest worry at this point. Everybody else can worry about the whole year. We got to worry about it. We got to worry about next week.
Kevin, it looks like from your depth chart you're not scared away from playing young players. Can you talk about, specifically on the defense, some of the younger guys you got on the two?
Well, there's two parts to that. Number one, there's a bunch of young guys there because we don't have anybody else, and fortunately we've recruited to that. We've thrown some guys into the fire. I think if you look at my history as a coach, that's how we've done things. The best players done things. The best players play, and you know, we played a bunch of young guys my first year as a head coach, and they grew through the program. Guys who have come into the program, whenever I've been a head coach, if they're talented enough, they learn what we're doing, we can trust them, and competitively or athletically, they're better than what we have. We're going to give those guys a chance to play, and I think that's a good thing. I think that creates competition on your football team. Just because you've been here 5 years doesn't mean that you deserve the right to play, particularly in a situation where 3 or 4 of those years you may have been in a different scheme. So, you know, we truly opened up competition across the board in spring football, and once again, after Larry Jackson got through this summer, with our young players that came in that were either transfers or freshmen that came in and have had an opportunity over the last 20 practices to compete to play. And I would say that you know, we made a decision on a quarterback because of his preparation to be able to play in the first game, to get him enough reps. But I would also say that, you know, if you're on that too deep, we're still a work in progress working into the game, because I'm anxious to see, just because you're a starter doesn't mean you're going to get the majority of plays in the game. If a guy gets in there and he's playing, everybody who's on that sheet of paper ought to be ready to play next Thursday.
How much, if at all, does your personal experience against Louisiana Tech help you this coming week?
A little bit. You know, it helps us a little bit, you know, from playing them last year. I think that you know, they're a different team, but their advantage is their experience, their continuity, a coaching staff that's been together, a team that's been together, a quarterback that's played before, a punter that's as good as there is in the country, you know, a receiving core that's been there. So, you know, they've got experience on their side. And when I say experience, I'm talking about experience in the same offense and the same defense. And so from that standpoint, Sonny will have an idea of what to expect from his players. From our standpoint, our guys are chomping at the bit because we've got really new schemes across the board, and that's good and bad. You worry about some things happening with their first game, but from an energy standpoint, I think our team really feels good about. Sometimes new things are good and can get rid of some staleness, and some guys are anxious to try it out on somebody else besides the same guys they've been practicing against for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Can you talk about how good you feel about this offensive line, especially with the new quarterback?
Yeah, our offensive line, I think, as anybody can see, is probably the strength of our football program, and that gives you the opportunity. Whenever you have a young quarterback or you have a situation where a backup quarterback goes in, it's not necessarily about the quarterback as it is about the other 10 players that let him grow as a player. So, if you had your druthers, if you said, well, you had an inexperienced line and an experienced quarterback, you'd lean towards having an experienced line and an inexperienced quarterback, a guy particularly going in the league that we're going to go into. And so, they give us a chance to be successful with their experience, with their size and experience in big games. And so, it's the other 10 guys, our running backs, our perimeter players, and our offensive line that have to create, and our coaching staff that have to create a quarterback-friendly environment, which I think Coach Kingsbury has done an excellent job of during fall camp.
Kevin, are there some things that you can't do with the young quarterback that maybe you were able to do a year ago when you had all those senior
players? When I had a 10th-year quarterback? What kind of question is that? What do you think? Yeah, I mean, it's there's no doubt, that's part of it. That's part of football, and there are certain things that we couldn't do the first year we were there that we could do the fourth year we were there, and that's not just on the quarterback. I think the first year I was there, we had a freshman running back, a couple freshman wide receivers, and a couple young offensive linemen. So, that's all part of it. And everybody in the world would like to come to fall camp with a veteran quarterback. Unfortunately, guys have to get experience sometime to become a veteran. And like I said, the combination of the experienced offensive line helps you. When it gets a problem is when you look around and there's nobody out there that has any experience. So for us, it's kind of exciting. I think, everybody is looking forward to where we're headed, what we're going to do. But offensively, it's very different than our team was used to, and across the board. So we just had a special teams meeting and with Brian Polian, who's full of energy, and his half hour of the day is I can guarantee you the players don't fall asleep in there. So it's all schemes and all kinds of new directives. And like I said, from that standpoint, sometimes you can get bored if you're used to doing something a certain way all the time. And I sense a certain energy level that's building with this team, and that's the fun part of college football to me. In the NFL, you have but you try to keep your core group of players together for as long as you can be the head coach in that situation. Here, it's ever changing. Every year, people are leaving your program, and there are new players coming in, whether they're freshmen, whether they're junior college players, and then the challenge is to integrate them into your system, and in a certain way, it creates a different kind of energy to be able to play.
How have you seen Patrick Lewis, all 312 pounds of him, adjust in terms of over the past month, in terms of getting to the line and snapping the ball in your up-tempo offense?
Yeah, I think he's tired of me yelling at him, hurry up, because he looks back. This time of year, it's hot out there, and it's even hotter for a 312-pound guy than it is for me just standing back there yelling at him all the time. And there's been a couple times he's given me the look like, shut up. But you know, I think he understands what that is. And so, you know, we can't do anything until the center gets to the ball. If we're all running to the ball and we have no center there, it makes no sense. So from that standpoint, I know that sounds very simple, but explain that to Patrick early. You know, we're waiting on you, and that bugged him a little bit. But I think he understands it, and his ability to get there and be able to recognize defenses and do some things. You know, I think that's one of the reasons our players voted him captain. You know, just his ability to do that. You know, although we're an experienced line, you know, you're looking at the only senior up there, which is that's good news. And you know, he's a guy that's been in big games and understands what we're doing. And you know, as I told the team last night, when you're voted on, not placed in a captain's role by coaches, but you're voted on by your peers, you know, whether you like it or not, you're leading this team. And so the four young men that our team chose, I couldn't agree with more. And that's how they're viewed from within, not from without, not by the coaching staff, but by the guys that come to work with them every day. And that's the ultimate compliment. And so, you know, he's a leader on this football team. And you know, you look at the positions that were voted, you know, Ryan Swope obviously is a big play guy for us, and Patrick as a center, you know, and Sean as a linebacker, and Stephen Terrell. Those are guys that are going to have to play well for us to be successful, and we're going to take their lead on the field. And those guys have done a good job during camp.
Several of the players talked about Johnny's leadership, especially as a freshman, showing good leadership. How much of a factor was that in choosing him to?
I think that's a two-part question. I think all the quarterbacks showed great leadership through camp. I think one of the reasons that that in particular I in the past and now have made a decision to do that around 2 weeks is it gives a team a chance to settle in behind a guy and understand, you know, how he does things. So that the first time he does say something to a lineman or say something to a running back or a receiver, it's not 2 days before the game. And everybody's looking at him like, where'd this guy come from? You know, 2 days ago I had somebody else tell me. So we've got some continuity there. It gives him a chance to not necessarily feel comfortable, but embrace his role as a quarterback and as a leader of an offense. So, you know, I think he's grown in that, and it's probably because he's getting more reps than the other guys. But all the quarterbacks, I think, have done a nice job throughout camp of leading in the huddle, pushing the offense, and really, you know, like I said earlier, it wasn't that the other two guys played poorly. You guys had come to the scrimmages, saw the improvement by everybody. And I think also that's a tribute to our assistant coaches and how they've brought the individual players along and developed them from spring until now. And you know, I think as we watch video, I think our other players see that too. And it's they understand what we're trying to do, and that leadership gets a lot easier when you've earned your spot.
How has he embraced that role since you guys have made it?
I think he's done well. You know, I think he's done very, very well, and that's a tough position, tough deal for anybody, particularly a young player in competition like that to deal with. You know, you step out there, all right, you're the number one quarterback. You run out there the first day and start telling everybody what to do, particularly when you're looking at a veteran offensive line that's played in a bunch of big-time ball games. And you know, I think that's one reason, getting back to why we made a decision early. It's just so his comfort level with the huddle, their comfort level with him, and his reps could increase. I think, you know, he's handling that just fine.
Menzel after the spring, and then he goes into the summer. You guys don't get to see him working out 7-on-7. Did he come back with different mechanics? I know he went out to California and worked with a guy out there. Did you notice that?
A little bit, but I think he's continued to continue to work on. I watch all those guys. You know, you can say that about everybody out there. I think Cliff's done a nice job with those guys. Obviously they all worked this summer, and Johnny went off campus for a week or so, and then during two-a-days they continued to work. You know, you look at the scrimmages and you see the improvement of all three of them. You see Jokel's improvement in throwing a deep ball, which he struggled with in the spring. He's probably throwing the best deep ball out of all those guys in live situations, and I think, you know, that's a combination of what they did in the summer, based on the plan that Cliff gave them to work on their own, and then coming into fall camp, they continue to work. Anybody who's been out there practice and you know, the first 10 minutes of special teams or whatever we're doing, Cliff's got them over in the corner in his playground with some net or hoop or bar or trash can or something he's got going over there with a bunch of balls going, and they work at it all the time. And you know, that whole development of that group has gone very, very well. Now, you know, they're all young, and young guys are going to make mistakes. So we're working to try to get those guys mechanically sound, fundamentally sound, so you know, that becomes second nature in how they're throwing the ball, how they're delivering it, how they're handing it off, how their reads are, and that takes time.
There are always unknowns going into the season for all teams, but especially teams with new everything, basically.
Mm-hmm.
What's your comfort level in what you don't know about this team going in, especially compared to others?
I don't know that there's ever a first-year head coach anywhere that has a comfort level, if that makes any sense. I mean, you know a lot about a team, but you really don't know until you play somebody else and you're under pressure. And guys have to make decisions to play. So, you know, we're still learning about this football team. That's why, as a veteran coach, you feel a lot better about the first game, particularly when you've been around guys. You know, and experience is a factor when it's experienced as a team, as a coaching staff and a team. You know, we know a lot more about our team right now than we did, obviously, in January, but we will know a lot more about our team by next Friday or Thursday night, late night, and we'll know a lot more in 2 months. And because it's hard to judge any team based on you know, practicing against each other for the last 20 practices and going into a league that you know, you watch video, but you haven't been on the field with those guys. And but I think, you know, for me as a coach, you know, your first game, just like the first game at Houston, you worry about a whole lot of things and a whole lot of scenarios that may or may not happen, particularly with you know, backup players and things like that. But you know, these guys have worked at it. We've got a quality coaching staff, and we've tried to make things as competitive and as game-like as possible and spring some things on the guys, and they've handled it just fine up to this point.
Better or worse that first game of U of H than you thought going in?
Well, since we won, I don't know, we won 55-3. It ended up all right. But, you know, you wake up as a head coach, particularly the first time you're a head coach, you don't get very much sleep because, you know, there's things that you're thinking about. You're opening up your book, your game day book. Did I miss something? Did I forget something? Did we not cover this? And I'll be better this time. But, you know, it'll probably be the same way. I'm like that just about every game, making sure that, you know, is there something that you missed, something that you didn't see? Did we cover this? And we've got a checklist to do that. And even though I've carried that checklist around for a while, I'm still worried about it the night before a game.
On your quarterbacks, do you have any desire at all to see more than one play during like meaningful snaps, or because, I mean, do you want more guys to play, or are you just going to stick with Johnny kind of thing?
What do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, you've got 4 guys on your roster who.
Are we going to roll quarterbacks? No.
Yeah.
expound a little bit more on Ryan's role and the leadership he brings to the offense and the receivers?
You know, Ryan's a guy who has come in and embraced a new system, a little bit different system than he was involved in, understands what we're trying to do, obviously has made big plays here in the past, and is a guy that we're going to need his leadership, and a guy that can create a quarterback-friendly environment, you know, for our team, and that's what perimeter players are about, you know, particularly early in a quarterback's career, where the ball's around you, you need to make a play on it, and as our quarterback grows and becomes more comfortable, you know, that ball gets closer and closer to the middle of your numbers. But early in this deal, you know, if it's around you, you got to make plays. And you know, he's a guy that has done that in the past. I look forward to him doing it this year.
Coach, what have you seen from the tight ends, and in particularly Lamont? And is he kind of just an example of how you go about your business?
Yeah, you know, here's a guy who, you know, just does his job. And I've been really pleased with he and Nehemiah Hicks over the last couple of weeks. You know, they've battled back and forth. We beat them up pretty good early. They sat out of practice a couple of days and then came back and responded well. Both of them are weapons, you know, to catch the football. They're both guys that will block, and they're tough guys and understand their role on the team. And they're going to have an integral role in what we're doing.
How do you feel about your punting situation?
Excuse me?
How do you feel about your punting situation?
You know, it's gotten better. And, you know, you go out and we've put some emphasis on the kicking game in the last week. We will do that today with a really special teams script practice of situations in the kicking game from you name it. And all in-game situations before the half, punts from all over the field, how to handle different situations. And so, you know, I think that those guys have done well. You know, our snapping situation, I was kind of upset the other day, kind of jokingly upset because Jake Matthews, we just walked over, they were sitting in the meeting. I said, well, you know, what about Jake? Is he snapped? He said, and Brian said, I'll keep him after practice. He went over and snapped 2 or 3. And I said, why didn't you tell us? And he said, I just didn't bring it up. So, without me saying another word, he's become our long snapper, our deep snapper, and he's doing an excellent job. I said, well, your dad did that for a long time. And he said, I know, that's probably why you haven't seen me do it for a while. So he's doing a good job with it. He's a veteran guy. You know his personality, nothing really gets to him, kind of calms it down. So from a snapping standpoint, you know, that has really filled a void for us from a comfort level for me as a coach. I think Bertlett as a kicker has done very well here as of late. You know, we put him in some situations, and Epperson, I think, has, you know, really kind of solidified himself as a punter. Now there's some competition going on there too. You know, Kaiser, those guys have done a good job behind him, and just like I said beforehand, you know, if you're in the 2 deep, you got a good chance that you'll play. If a guy's not getting the job done, and then we have some concerns and with either your effort on the field, playing, or your consistency level as a player, and that's just kind of how I've done things in the past.
Do you feel it's an advantage or disadvantage for your team when the kick out of bounds at the 25 or out of the end zone? Do you feel that's an advantage for your team on special teams?
You know, we're going to have to see. You mean in the return game or kicking the ball off?
Yeah, kicking when it goes to 25, if it goes out.
I mean, what I'm saying is us as a kickoff team or us as a return team?
Either way, do you feel that role is an advantage?
Well, there's 2 different deals there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? So,
both of them. I mean,
both of them, you know, I don't know. You know, moving the ball up helps every kicker, depending on your scheme. You know, some guys that kick the ball out of bounds and give it to them at the 25. There's guys who are trying to sky kick it and bring it down at the 1, you know, based on our history as a return team, you know, that was the first play of offensive football for us at the last place I was at. We had a guy that tied a national record in kickoff returns for touchdowns. So I was sad to see the thing moved up. You know, if anything, I wanted to move it back 10 yards so that we could return kicks. But, you know, I was one of the guys that, you know, when this whole thing came up about ending the kickoff, I think that's part of college football. I think, you know, the fans like it. I think as a coach, I like it. I think it's a tone setter for the game. And it's one of those plays, just like everybody else as a coach. Everybody's watching and anxious, and the guys who are good at it, it's like an offensive play. There's a scheme, there's a way to do things, and your return guy becomes a real offensive weapon for you. So, you know, we'll see where we are. We've got some guys back there that can return some kicks, and if they'll give us a chance, you know, we're going to give them a chance to bring it out. But you know, we'll see how that plays out this year. I think us just moving the ball up 5 yards will be a big deal in college football, and you'll get a good feel for teams what they're trying to do as far as where their kicking situation is. Guys that can kick it out of the back, because everybody right now, you know, as a kicker, moving that ball up there, that ball's going to be deep in the end zone or out if they just let them go ahead and hammer away at it.
Can you give us your assessment of Colby Cameron, the quarterback at Louisiana Tech?
You know, as I said beforehand, you know, you look at their team, and anytime you have a veteran quarterback, a guy who's played in games and won, they have to feel good about it. You know, I think it's the combination, as I said, of all the parts. Here's a guy that has been able to throw the ball effectively, has been able to run quarterback run game effectively. They get him on the move, spread him out some, and throw the ball on the move. So he's an athletic guy and has some weapons to deal with, you know, on the outside, on the perimeter. So, you know, I think he's a guy who won't be intimidated. Matter of fact, their whole team won't be intimidated by us coming in there. You know, they've played SEC football teams in the past, been in those games right up until the end, have beaten some SEC teams. So, you know, they're a defensive stop away from beating TCU last year in the bowl game. So there's some confidence level in that, you know, and there's a confidence factor for them that we realize, but obviously, you know, for us, as I said, it's a chance for us to get out on the field and play a quality football team, a league champion, and really assess where we are and how far we've come in the last really month.
With it being your first game with this team and a lot of the younger players and being their first college game, do you see an advantage to opening up on the road versus having to stay here in College Station where they're in class with their classmates all day and the people are around them all the time?
You're really a glass half full guy. You're like me. The advantage of going on the road instead of staying home where it's comfortable. You really want me to answer that?
Going into the off-season, I know there were some question marks on the defensive line, especially with graduations and some injuries. After fall camp, how would you assess your defensive line and the depth right now?
Well, you know, as I said, we're a work in progress up front. You know, we've got, I think the Ennis and Mathis give us some size in there, you know, 300 pounds. I think that, you know, moving Neely from the outside where he was limited athletically as a pass rusher and kind of a run-stopping, strong side defensive end, moving him inside, he becomes athletic in a phone booth and creates some problems. He's not not an every down player, but he gives us some rotation. And you know, we're probably going to have to, you know, Alonzo Williams is a guy who has gotten better and better over the course of the last week, who adds some depth there. But certainly inside, that's where the difference is probably in the league that we're getting into. And then on the outside, at defensive ends and rush, DeMontre Moore's got to be a great pass rusher for us. He's got to continue to turn up his game. Julian Obioha has really come in as just a hard-playing guy and plays with a high motor. And, as a young guy, you can get the other stuff done. If you've got that high motor, quick twitch, got good hands, he's going to get better and better. And it's kind of like when I was at Purdue a long time ago, we kept watching. I said, boy, it was just the opposite. I said, these ends are pretty good as Roosevelt Colvin. And our tackle was having trouble blocking him. And then about year two, they said, well, Roosevelt's not getting any sacks, and Matt Light must be a pretty good tackle. And they both ended up being really good. And so these guys are rushing two pretty good tackles every day. And it's as your team gets better, your competition level gets better and your players get better because of playing against each other. And it's been great, for a freshman to go out there and rush Luke Jokel and Jake Matthews every day. That's not very fun early. And he didn't get discouraged. He worked at his craft, and I think hopefully those dividends will pay off for us at our defensive end positions for all our defensive ends as the year goes on.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
So that was Kevin Sumlin on this opening press conference of the season. Kind of want to reset you here. 12th Man TV is bringing you today's press conference free.